In this video, we're going to look at how to use Onshape to create a pencil. It should look something like this by the time you've finished with it. And there's an extension task to do some finishing off at the other end. But this is the shape that we're going to make. Let's go ahead now. So we start in Onshape by going to Create. And it's a document. We're going to call it Pencil. And the starting point, like with most of these tutorials, is to select a work plane that you're going to draw on. For this one, we're going to build it from the bottom up. So we click on the top work plane, so as if we were looking down on it, and then sketch on that. Again, this is at an angle, so anything that you draw on this, looking at it from an angle, is going to be slightly distorted. So what is quite useful is either to click on the top, if you're working on the top plane, is to click on the top view, or what I like to do, because it's not always on the top work plane, is to go to view normal to sketch plane. So whichever sketch plane you're on, that'll view normal to it and flatten it out. So there we go. So looking straight down. Now we're going to use a new tool. We're going to use an Inscribed Polygon. And when you start drawing it, I want you to start by clicking on the center axis here. So click and drag. And when that pulls out your polygon, you can lock it. So if you hover over one of these vertical lines up here for the right work plane, then that will lock it so that it's perfectly flat that way. You don't have to, but it makes dimensioning a bit easier later on. So if we just, from the center axis, pull up and try and lock it onto that vertical line there, and then click. First thing it does is ask us how many sides, and you can just, I'm not clicking it, I'm just moving the mouse up and down to select how many sides. We want 6 sides. So when we get to 6, then you can click. And the next stage, before we extrude that, is going to be to say how big we want that polygon to be. So use the dimension tool, click on that, and we're measuring it from the flat surface to flat surface, not the furthest point this way. So we're measuring it, if we've drawn it this way around, we're measuring it from top to bottom. So it's the flat surface, click, to the furthest away flat surface, click, and then pull out, and then click again to drop your measurement. Now this is quite big at the moment, it's 69 millimeters, and we only want it to be 7 millimeters. So 7, enter. So that is our polygon. So I'm just going to move that measurement a little bit closer and just double check it. There we go. And then we can OK that sketch and move on to the next bit. So we can extrude this now. As usual, if we extrude it in this view, we're not going to see it turn into 3D. So it's quite useful to just tilt it at an angle. You can either click on one of the corner points here or put it into isometric view so you can see what you're extruding. Then go to the extrude tool, click on your polygon that you've just created, and you can see it's going to pull up into 3D. We need to check that this is a solid. Everything that we do, unless we get to really advanced stuff, we don't really look at surfaces until much later on. Surfaces are invisible, and they're not actually pieces of geometry that we can work with. So always check that it's a solid. We're doing it for the first time, so for the first time we'll always make sure that it's new. Later on, if we're going to add features, we might use the add or remove aspect of this, but we're first one's always new. We've clicked on the polygon, so that's our sketch of face 1 there. And then the depth of the extrude, we're going to set at 180 millimeters. So 180, enter, and that's the main sort of shaft of our pencil. All right, you can press F to fit to have a look at that, and use your mouse wheel to zoom in. Right, with most pencils, they don't have these sort of sharp edges. They're a bit more comfortable to hold. So we're going to put some fillets on those to round them off a little bit. So use the fillet tool, and we're going to go around one by one on each of the edges. Not a surface, not the whole flat surface there, but an edge. Click 1. And before we do anything else, let's set the depth, because 5 millimeters is quite big, and we only want a small amount. So it's 0.4 millimeters, enter. You can see that's created a much more sort of realistic sized fillet on there. So that's one of them. Now we can go around and do the others. We might need to move it around. Again, remember to try and only click on the edge rather than the whole surface. So there's 6 of those for our 6-sided polygon, and there you can see we've rounded and filleted those edges to 0.4. Okay, that. Again, we can press F to fit, and we can put it into isometric view to sort of straighten it out a little bit. Now then, the next stage, and before we start to render this, is to shave the top into a point as if we were going to sharpen a pencil. So this would be our blunt pencil. The next bit to shave it off is going to be a little bit fiddly. This bit up to this point has been quite simple. Draw a sketch and extrude it. But now we're going to move into something a little bit more tricky. Now, if you put it into top view, so you're looking down on it, hopefully when you drew it, that polygon will have 2 work planes running through it, the front one and the right one. Now, it doesn't matter which one you select, but I'm going to go for the front work plane because I want to make sure that I'm drawing a sketch on something that runs exactly straight through the center of my polygon. So for that, we're going to use the front. So click on the front work plane. You can either do it from there or over here on the left in the features tree, and then sketch on that. Remember we said if you right click anywhere on the page and go view normal to sketch plane, that means that you're looking now directly down at the front work plane. And you need to zoom out and zoom back in a bit because we need to focus in nice and small on the top of this pencil. So we're going to draw the sketch of the shape that we're going to shave off. All right, so zoom into about here. When you draw your shape, we're going to start by drawing a corner rectangle. All right, so draw your corner rectangle, and we want to start it from the center, from the midway point of this polygon. Now it will automatically find the center, and you'll see this little dash line appear. All right, now we're going to start drawing it above, so starting from the center axis line there and above the outside of our pencil. So I've clicked to start and then drag it down. All right, so we've got something that looks like that. Now the length of the rectangle, I'm going to set 30 millimeters long. Zoom out so we can see it, and the length is going to, the width rather, is going to be 10 millimeters across. All right, so that is our rectangle. To be honest, it doesn't really matter on the sizes too much. We just want to make sure that we've got a rectangle that is cutting through it. I want a bit more of this to cut off, so I might even set the distance from the top of the rectangle to the top of my hexagon, the top of my pencil. I might set that to be 10. There we go. So I've got a good 20 millimeters of bit that I'm going to shave off of the pencil. So the bit that we're going to shave off is just going to be a straight line. So we've drawn the rectangle in, 10 by 30, 10 millimeters from the top. Next thing is to use a line, and this is where it gets a little bit fiddly. We're going to draw the line starting from the center or the left-hand side of the rectangle, but I want to click above the edge of the hexagon. So it locks onto there, but above the tip of my pencil, so it's outside of the pencil. So click there, and then do the same thing again at the bottom. It needs to be locking onto the bottom edge of that rectangle, but outside of it, not inside of it. So around about there. It doesn't have to be too precise. All right. So press Escape to finish drawing the line. Now that should make that section, or that section of the whole rectangle, shaded in. All right. I'm actually going to use the scissors now to get rid of the bits of this rectangle that I don't need. So I don't need the bottom. So use the scissors, snip off the bottom of the rectangle there, and snip off this bit on the inside as well. So we're just left with that section there. And that's the bit that we're going to use to revolve to shave off the pencil. So we can OK that sketch. All right, and now at this stage, we go to the revolve feature, and it's always going to be in solid. This time, instead of making a new feature, we're going to remove material, and it asks for which bit do you want to revolve. So then we go and click on that shape that we've just created. The final thing it's asking for is to select what axis we're going to revolve it around. So if you click on the revolve axis, and then you're going to click on this line that should be locked onto the center of your pencil. And there you can see it's using that as the axis, and it's spinning around and shaving off all the way around to create the nice sharpened pencil. All right, so we can click OK to that, and that is pretty much our pencil done. There's a couple of things that we can do. I haven't done the bottom end of it. The bottom end I'm going to do in a different tutorial. But at this stage, what we can do before we start rendering it in color is to create a difference between the lead of the pencil and the rest of it. So to do that, if we go back into that sketch that we've just created, sketch 2, and go right click, edit, view normal to sketch plane to flatten it out. And all we're going to do here is go to the line tool and sort of about 2/3 of the way up, I suppose. So if this is the bit shaving off, about 2/3 of the way up, not halfway, or lock onto halfway. That's probably not quite the right proportions. A bit further up than halfway. We zoom in and draw a tiny, tiny little sort of V or triangle, something like that. Doesn't matter about the size, just 2 little lines. Press escape to stop drawing, and then use the scissors to snip that little bit of line away there. So it's really small, just enough to create a difference in the surface. If we click OK there, it's created a little cut off where the lead would go. Now that's quite important, because when we come to colour it in, which we're going to do now, to colour it in, we'll go right click, edit appearance for part 1. If we made the whole part a colour, let's say black, then it's going to look like that. It's going to be quite difficult to see. So maybe let's make it a sort of woody pencil colour, like that. So the whole pencil is now wood coloured. That's all very well and good, but we want it to look a bit more realistic, so we can colour in the lead. So for that, we're going to go right click on that part, and instead of going edit appearance for the whole part, we're going to go add appearance to face. And that is going to be black or dark grey, all right, depending on how perfectly accurate you want it to be. If you really want to be careful, you might want to zoom in and click on that bit in there as well, perhaps. All right, but so now we've got that dark grey or that black colour set for the lead. All right, I think we'll go for dark grey. So we can OK that. Now, the final finishing bits of this pencil are going to be to colour in the outside of it. So we'll use that same technique, right click, edit appearance, or mine's come off the page a little bit, so let's try that again. Right click, right click, it's down there, it's just off the screen ever so slightly, but this is change the appearance of the face. Most of pencil is, I haven't actually got an example here, but most of the pencil is, thank you very much, is, where's the camera? There it is. So it's got yellow on most of the surface, well, it's actually black on most of the surfaces, and then yellow on 2 of the flat ones. So if I go around and say that I want pretty much all of these to be black, first of all, it's probably easier to do them all in black first, and then after that we've got 2 flat ones on one side in yellow, and then 2 flat ones on the other side in yellow. So we'll choose that flat one, assign that colour, and then this This one here, we're going to set as a yellow. Oh no, that's done the whole thing. Well, I'm going to leave it there so you can experiment with that. But that is the basic end of your pencil. On another tutorial, using a different feature, we're going to look at how to do some lofting to create the end of the pencil here, which is a little bit more fiddly. So we'll do that in another one. So there we go. Good luck with that. Crap, how do you pause it? I don't even think that was... Oh, there we go.